The alien girl thought she knew pleasure, until the human showed her something new. Jace's footsteps barely make a sound as he moves along the narrow corridor. The lights are low, flickering red, painting his features in intermittent shadows. His jaw is clenched, a scar rippling across his cheek whenever his eyes narrow to check the corners. A dense hush blankets the black site facility, no distant alarms, no scuttling of guards, just the steady hum of the power conduits. It's the kind of silence that exists before bloodshed. He can taste the tension on his tongue, a metallic anticipation that surges through his veins. He presses a gloved hand to the wall, feeling for vibrations, considering the layout, reminding himself that there's only one objective here tonight: find the alien who supposedly has intel on the man who wiped out his entire team. He hovers at a reinforced door, inhaling once through gritted teeth. His mind is already flicking through scenarios: ambush, booby trap, or the possibility that this is just a dead end. He's not exactly sure what he'll find behind this door, only that rumors say it holds a prisoner with knowledge beyond value. He doesn't let himself breathe too long. Tension coils in his chest, fueling him instead of slowing him down. The door hisses open beneath his override code. Pale light streams from within, revealing a chamber that smells of disinfectant and raw power. The figure seated against the far wall, in front of a slab of metal that's probably some twisted version of a bed, is nothing like he expected. She's lithe but exudes strength, her skin nearly gold in the stark glow, with faint lines, like luminous tattoos, tracing her temples. The elongated ears curve upward, each ridge shimmering with alien intricacy. For a moment, Jay stands there, heart pounding, letting that silent flicker of tension stretch tight. Her eyes are closed, but he knows she senses him. She's too still, too poised, a predator waiting for the perfect second to strike. His breathing slows as he weighs whether to speak first or maintain his silence. Her eyes open. They gleam with a metallic teal and gold swirl that catches the meager light. She tilts her head in a slight motion, as if tasting the air. Lips parted, but no immediate words, just a subtle inhalation that resonates like she's breathing him in. He forces himself not to shift, not to show any flinch. Their mutual stare is unwavering for 3 long heartbeats. That tension crackles. He can almost feel it physically in the space. His pulse throbs at his temple, urging him forward. Then, with a slow, dangerous curve of her lips, she breaks the silence. "Come to liberate me," she purrs, her voice unexpectedly low and resonant. "Or to grovel at my feet?" He doesn't respond. Not at first. She watches him, that crooked smile deepening. He can see how the lines on her skin glow just a fraction brighter with some internal energy. Her smirk twists into something halfway between intrigue and amusement. His fingers tense around his weapon. He's seen aliens attempt intimidation before, but something about her strikes deeper. There's a confidence in her posture as she lounges against the cold wall, no visible shackles, but he knows she's a prisoner. He steps forward, the single overhead light swinging with his movement, sending arcs of shadow across her features. She laughs, a soft sound that slices through the hush. Silent. Stern. Predictable. Her gaze dips over him once, a measuring look. "You might be more interesting if you spoke, but I suspect you're the strong and brooding type. Which is usually so boring unless..." A playful pause. "There's something worth discovering underneath." He lunges, pinning her shoulders back against the wall with a swift movement. She doesn't resist. Instead, her eyes light up in challenge, and a pulse of warmth radiates from her body. Instantly, he feels the hair on his arms prickle. Her skin is almost hot to the touch, like a living furnace. She angles her face closer to his, breath quickening. The glow in her eyes intensifies, and if he didn't know any better, he'd say she was enjoying this. "Where is Creon Tyal?" he grinds out, voice low, never loosening his hold on her shoulders. She arches a brow. "So you do speak?" There's a flash of white teeth in her smirk. "Is that the name you crave so deeply you'll break into the Syndicate's black site facility just to ask me for it?" His grip tightens. "Answer me." Her slender fingers brush his wrists. He wonders if she means to pry them off, or if it's some sensual attempt to gauge his reaction. How rude of me! You storm in here, wanting my cooperation, and you think manhandling me is the best approach? In one fluid motion, she twists, slipping from his hold as if she's liquid. He steps back, bringing his weapon up, but she's just as fast, ending in a poised crouch near the bed. She doesn't lunge for him. Instead, she tilts her head and studies him with renewed intensity, as though his reaction is more fascinating than the threat of the gun. I'm Jace, he bites out, recentering himself with a sharp breath. You know who I'm after. That means you know everything about the operation that targeted my squad. He glances at the door, scanning for any sign of reinforcements. None come. Perhaps they're so certain of her confinement that they didn't even bother with heavy guard. We're leaving. One way or another. There's no immediate agreement or refusal, just the slide of her gaze up and down his frame, measuring not just his strength but his resolve. You think you can take me out of here that easily? Her pupils dilate, and for a second, he notices the faint luminescent lines on her temples pulse in sync with her heartbeat. You're either braver or more reckless than I expected. He doesn't waste breath on a retort. Instead, he gestures with the muzzle of the weapon. Move! She stands slowly, hands by her sides, intentionally unhurried. Each shift of her body seems designed to test him, like she's waiting for him to flinch or stammer. He just narrows his eyes, focusing on the door. If you want out, he says, stay close. Without further warning, he steps into the hall. She follows, her posture radiating a mixture of amusement and caution. Alarms are still absent, a detail that sets his nerves on edge. She notices, too, a slight frown denting her brow as they pass flickering consoles and an array of empty cells. They've evacuated, she murmurs. Or they're setting a trap. He keeps scanning. Maybe they never cared enough to protect you. He feels her gaze flick to him, but he doesn't reciprocate. Or perhaps, she says softly, they assume no one would be foolish enough to come for me. He doesn't respond. Their steps echo along the passage. Overhead lights flicker from red to normal luminescence. He's memorized the facility schematics well enough to know the exit is 4 corridors away. At each intersection, he checks corners. No hostiles. No movement. It's unnerving, and the tension prickles at the back of his neck. Leora. He recalls that name from his intel. She claimed to have a trove of data about Tyal's network, claimed to have defected from her species' ruling caste. Some believed her, some didn't. Jace only knows that if she's telling the truth, she can lead him to the people who butchered his team. And that alone is worth any risk. They round another bend into what must be an interrogation block. The stench of burned flesh lingers in the air, making him grit his teeth. This is how they kept you here? He mutters, scanning an apparatus that looks half laboratory, half torture device. She glances at it with a bored expression. They tried. I've experienced more thorough methods back on my homeworld. She trails a finger along a metal instrument. But humans do have a certain brutality to them. He flicks his gaze to her. And you're not offended by that? A sardonic smile crosses her lips. Offended? No, Jace. I find it refreshing. Straight to the point, with no illusions of courtesy. She crosses her arms. But I also find it interesting that you assume I'm fragile just because I was kept in a cell. That draws a grunt from him. He's about to respond when a faint mechanical hum draws his attention. Doors slam shut on both sides of the corridor, blocking escape routes. A pre-recorded voice crackles through the overhead speakers. Containment protocol engaged. All experimental subjects remain in place. His gaze snaps to Leora. What did you do? She laughs, not a full-bodied laugh, just a quiet, mocking exhalation. You break in here, cause a stir, and yet you suspect me of triggering the alarm? She steps closer, the lines on her skin glowing with heightened intensity. I want out as much as you do, Jace. He clenches his jaw. He can't afford to distrust her now. He needs her intel. Then we find another way. They backtrack toward an alternate corridor. The overhead lights pulse, and a shrill siren begins to wail. Jace's knuckles whiten around his weapon, adrenaline spiking in his veins. He can't let them lock this place down. Too many corners, too many sealed barriers. He curses under his breath and motions for Leora to stay behind him. They sprint into a side hall, momentarily free of that piercing siren. She glances around, spots a control panel, and waves him over. "I can hack it," she says, stepping forward with an assurance that suggests she's done this before. Her fingers fly over the screen, her expression twisting in concentration. For a moment, Jace wonders if she's stalling, but the beep of acceptance hushes his suspicion. The lights flicker again, and the overhead doors groan, beginning to cycle open. "That'll hold them off," she murmurs, stepping away from the panel. The glow on her temples dims slightly, as if she expended energy to manipulate the interface. "For now." He only nods. The next corridor stretches to the facility's east wing, leading to what his intel suggests is a loading bay. If they can get outside, he's already stashed a small infiltration craft near the perimeter. The walk is quick, both of them on high alert, footsteps echoing in tandem. He tries to ignore the distracting warmth that seems to radiate off her. Her presence hums in his awareness like a second heartbeat. When they finally reach the loading bay, the space is eerily empty. Crates, abandoned trolleys, a forklift, all left behind. A massive overhead gate remains sealed. He curses under his breath, scanning for the manual override. She moves beside him, not speaking, just reading the environment with the same keen intensity. Her posture is coiled tension, ready to strike. A click echoes from behind a towering stack of crates. Jace drops to a knee, weapon raised. Leora's eyes flare with adrenaline. A security droid rolls out, spindly arms snapping into place for combat. It's drab gray, scarred from previous conflicts, but definitely operational. The droid's sensors fix on them, and without preamble, it fires an energy bolt. Jace ducks. The searing beam slams into the wall, leaving a smoking hole. He barks out a warning to Leora, but she's already moving, diving behind a crate. The droid swivels, focusing on her. She flashes him a grin from her cover, as if to say, "Try not to die." She leaps out, rolling across the floor with a grace that's almost inhuman. Jace seizes the distraction to aim carefully. He squeezes the trigger twice. 2 projectiles slam into the droid's sensor array, sparking and shorting out. The mechanical terror collapses, limbs twitching. A short, triumphant silence follows. Leora pushes herself up, brushing dust off her gold-hued uniform. "Efficient," she comments, stepping over the sparking remains. "But it won't be the last obstacle. If they left security droids behind, there could be more." He exhales, scanning for a control panel to open the bay doors. "We fight through them if we have to. Come on." He nods toward the console near the sealed gate. She follows, her footsteps light despite the tension in the air. He tries a direct override. It fails. She watches, arms folded. He glances at her, wanting to demand that she hack it too, but holding back. She steps in without being asked, fingers gliding over the console. The gate creaks, begins to lift. Outside, the night sky is visible, a sliver of freedom. He readies his weapon, scanning for threats. Nothing moves. She's silent a moment, her gaze lingering on the open gate, then flicking back to Jace. "Let's go. Unless you want to linger." He doesn't wait. Together, they move out into the open air. The black site facility sits on a barren stretch of rocky ground, with minimal security fencing. The overhead sky is washed with faint starlight. Jace takes a quick bearing, recognizing a faint set of landmarks. About half a mile to the north, there's a ridge where he parked his infiltration craft. If they can make it that far without drawing reinforcements, they'll be golden. They break into a run. Her stride matches his easily, barely winded. He wonders briefly how many humans she's fought or outlasted in her time. The crisp air cools his sweat, but he can still feel the heat pouring off her presence. It's distracting, a subtle ache of awareness. He shakes it off, focusing on scanning for pursuers. Nothing but the faint wind. The facility behind them remains quiet, no alarms blaring outside, suggesting they managed a clean getaway. He leads her around a hillock, where the infiltration craft is hidden beneath camouflage netting. He peels it back, revealing a sleek, matte black vessel big enough for two. She steps closer, running a palm across the hull. Stolen, I assume? He punches in the code to open the cockpit. Borrowed, for a good cause. Get in. She arches a brow. And we're off to, where exactly? He stows his weapon. Someplace safe. Then you give me the intel. After that, I don't care where you go. She smirks, placing a hand on the cockpit's rim before swinging inside with a fluid motion. I have a feeling we're nowhere near done, Jace. He climbs in behind her, sealing the hatch. The cockpit envelopes them in cramped quarters, forcing them shoulder to shoulder for a moment as they strap in. The tension in that small space ignites again, no space to retreat from the heat that emanates from her. She notices him trying to keep his distance. He notices her noticing. Neither speaks. The engine hums to life beneath them. With a low roar, the craft lifts off, ascending into the starlit sky. For a few minutes they fly in terse silence. He steers them through the upper atmosphere, navigating by memory and the flickering instruments. At last they break free from the planet's gravitational hold. The darkness of space looms ahead, dotted by distant lights, freighters, station beacons, the glow of the planet's rings. He flicks a switch, and the autopilot engages, giving him a moment to focus on his newly acquired passenger. She stares at the expanse of stars as though searching for a constellation she once knew intimately. Her shoulders relax marginally, but the tension in her posture never fully disappears. He can sense the coiled power, the cunning intelligence behind those strangely luminous eyes. Leora, he says, deciding to use the name that intelligence reports attached to her. You said you could help me find Tyal. That's the only reason I risked everything to get you out of that hole. She turns her head slowly, voice soft but laced with challenge. I recall saying I know things. Whether or not I choose to share them depends on you, Jace. A muscle in his jaw ticks. His patience is already worn thin by memories of that slaughtered mission. I'm not here to play games. He unfastens his harness and twists to face her. That bastard and his cohorts exterminated my entire unit. They left me alive so I could watch. His tone breaks, just for a split second, but he keeps his glare steady. I swore I'd hunt him to the ends of the galaxy. If you're lying. She leans closer, the lines on her temples glowing faintly, voice dropping to a near whisper. I'm not lying. Tyal and I have history. My people once allied with him for mutual gain. I know what he's done. I know what he plans to do next. He narrows his eyes. Tell me. She shakes her head, leaning back in the seat. Not yet. First, we need a safe place to talk. A rendezvous with the right people. Information like this can bring half the galaxy to war if we're careless. He exhales through his nose, annoyance mingling with grudging acceptance. She's right, he can't tear the info out of her forcibly. And even if he tried, she's not the type to yield so easily. I know a contact on Neric Station, he says at last. They can arrange a secure hideout. She nods, but amusement dances in her eyes. All right, Jace. Take me to your contact. Just don't forget, I might be the key to your revenge, but I'm nobody's captive. There's a warning in her tone, an edge of danger that matches the glint in her gaze. Not anymore. He sets the NAV computer, ignoring the subtle jolt in his stomach at how close she is. We'll see. They turn forward again, letting the starfield and the hum of the engines fill the silence. The infiltration craft surges into faster-than-light transit, and the swirl of starlight around them seems to vibrate in time with his pulse. Leora folds her arms, lids lowered in an almost meditative stance, though he senses she's as alert as ever. His mind drifts to the faint scar along her collarbone, evidence she's seen combat, possibly interrogation. She'd implied she's been through worse than what humans can dish out. Her species is rumored to have advanced methods of persuasion and cruelty. He's not sure if that should make him trust her more or less. But for now, they need each other. That's enough. In the cockpit's dim glow, he notices the slow dance of light across her temple lines. She's frowning slightly, lost in thought. He keeps his distance. He forces it, actually. Something about her is too magnetic, too intense. He wonders if it's those rumored pheromones or just raw presence. Either way, letting that kind of distraction in could cost him. The memory of his fallen comrades is still fresh, and he's not about to let attraction, if that's even what this is, pull him off his path. Vengeance first. Everything else is secondary. Time passes in loaded silence. The autopilot counts down to real space re-entry. Neric Station is a borderline facility orbiting a resource-rich moon. It's shady enough to hide in, but stable enough to avoid petty criminals running riot. He knows a contact there, Leora, who can set up a quiet meeting place, no questions asked. The perfect environment to squeeze everything out of Leora without drawing unwanted attention. When the infiltration craft lurches out of faster-than-light, Neric Station's blinking lights come into view. The structure is a cluster of metallic domes and spires, silhouetted against the luminescent swirl of a gas giant behind it. Jace sets them on approach, ignoring station queries by punching in stolen access codes. They slip through the station's external gates with minimal fuss, docking at a private bay typically used for discreet arrivals. Lights flicker on in the cramped hangar, illuminating worn steel walls and a battered floor that's seen countless landings and takeoffs. He powers down the engines. We're here. He unseals the cockpit canopy. The air that floods inside smells slightly stale and metallic, typical of older stations. Leora slides out gracefully, scanning their surroundings. Jace follows suit, scanning the corners for any watchers. A single docking attendant in coveralls looks up from a rusted console. He waves half-heartedly, not particularly interested in who they are. That's good. Jace nods once, letting his posture and expression warn the attendant not to bother them. The man returns to his console without a word. They make their way into the station's corridors, which are dimly lit and lined with flickering neon signs. The hum of the life support system reverberates through the metal floors. Groups of travelers and residents pass by with curious glances but keep their distance, recognizing the universal posture of heavily armed, no-nonsense individuals who want no trouble. Leora walks with her head held high, her gold-tinged skin catching the occasional reflection from a neon light. Jace keeps his gaze forward, but occasionally he side-eyes her to ensure she's not wandering off or signaling anyone. So far, her expression remains unreadable. They descend a few levels by battered lift. The walls are scrawled with graffiti and half a dozen alien scripts, the overhead light flickering ominously. When the lift doors screech open on a cramped corridor with steel grates underfoot, Jace leads her to a door at the end. He inputs a code, stepping into a small apartment that smells of old machinery and cheap disinfectant. Harsh overhead lighting reveals a single couch, a table, and a back room with a simple cot. Broken crates and disassembled electronics litter the corners. Leora's hideout. He's about to call out a greeting when a tall figure emerges from a side room. Leora is human, dark-haired, with wide shoulders and an ever-present tension in her stance that marks her as an ex-mercenary. She eyes Jace, then Leora, then back to Jace. Her mouth twitches in a hint of a grin. "You brought company," Leora says, her voice low, unimpressed but not hostile. Jace offers a terse nod. "Need a secure place. A few hours at least. Maybe more." Leora's gaze slides to Leora, taking in her unusual features with calculated interest. "Right. Payment up front. I'm no charity." He removes a small data chit from his pocket, tossing it her way. "Credits for your trouble. You didn't see us. We're gone by morning." Leora arches a brow at the amount on the chit, then shrugs. "Your business. Not my concern." She beckons them to the living area. "Make yourselves at home. If you need gear, it's triple what you'd pay anywhere else. Consider it a privacy tax." Jace nods, motions Leora inside. Leora disappears into another room, presumably to leave them be. The door slides shut behind her, leaving them in an uneasy quiet. Leora circles the main room, her fingertips grazing the battered furniture. She looks faintly amused. "This is your idea of a safe place?" she says, lips curling in a half-smile. He sets his weapon on the table, crossing his arms. "No one here will ask questions, and nobody has reason to betray me. That's all I need." She glances over her shoulder, that luminous gaze flickering with a trace of playfulness. "Better than a prison cell, I suppose." They stare each other down again, tension simmering between them. He's not sure who's going to break the silence first. Finally, she leans her hip against the table, folding her arms beneath her chest in a way that draws attention to her lithe build. "So, Jace, now that I'm free, you plan to chain me here until I spill my secrets?" He exhales, stepping closer. "I don't have time for mind games. If you know where Tyal is, say it." She meets his gaze. For a moment, the flicker of something vulnerable crosses her face, but it's gone just as quickly. "He's about to broker a new weapons deal. Something that will tip the balance of power in 5 systems. If he succeeds, the carnage your squad endured will look like a minor skirmish." He glares, fists clenching. "Where?" She tilts her head, watching him carefully. "A mobile station in the Overin Belt. He changes the location regularly. I only have partial coordinates, but enough to track him if we move fast." He forces himself to breathe evenly. This is it, the lead he's wanted for so long. He can feel the rage coiling in his chest, ready to explode, but he keeps it contained. "We go after him, then." She arches a brow. "It's not just him. His entire network. They won't let you stroll in and shoot him. And my people, some still side with him. This is bigger than your vendetta. If we fail, it sparks an interspecies war that'll consume half the galaxy." He nods, adrenaline surging again. "All the more reason to stop him. Are you in, or do you have your own agenda?" She straightens, unfolding her arms. "I might have an interest in seeing him taken down. He betrayed me, too. But let's not pretend we're bosom allies. I'm helping you for my own reasons." He exhales, the tension in his posture easing slightly. "That works for me." They regard each other in silence. There's a shift in the air, a new kind of awareness. He catches the faintest scent from her, a subtle spice that stirs something inside him. He clamps down on that feeling. It's not the time. She, however, notices the flicker in his expression. A knowing curve appears on her lips. "Your silence is a defense," she says quietly, stepping closer, as if trying to read the lines in his face. "But your eyes reveal more than you think." He swallows, refusing to step back. "They reveal only that I won't stop until Tyval's dead." She nods, lips curling into a half-smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. "Yes, the thirst for revenge. I know it well." She lifts a hand, almost like she might touch him, but instead she retracts it, turning away toward the small window that overlooks the neon-laced depths of Neric Station. "We should rest while we can. The chase will be long. And dangerous." He moves to the couch, checking his weapon's power cell, trying not to notice how the overhead light halos her golden skin. "Take the cot," he mutters, jerking his chin toward the back room. "I'll watch the entrance." She lets out a soft laugh. "Protecting me from intruders or yourself from me?" He doesn't dignify that with a reply. He just stares at the door, jaw tight. She shrugs and disappears into the back room. He remains, weapon within arm's reach. But his thoughts swirl, refusing to settle. The room feels charged with her presence, a heat that lingers even though she's gone from view. He resents the distraction, but can't deny it. At this point, he's in too deep to deny anything. Sleep doesn't come easily. He sits there, staring at the metal door, listening for any sign of betrayal or approach from outside. Occasionally, he hears a faint shuffle in the back room, her movement. It shouldn't make his pulse quicken, but it does. Exhaustion finally seeps in, turning his eyelids heavy. He fights it, propping himself upright on the worn couch, forcing his gaze to the door. The seconds drag, but eventually he drifts. He snaps awake sometime later to a muffled sound, a faint click in the corridor. His eyes fly open, weapon raised. The door slides aside, but it's only Leora, returning with a small crate of supplies. She sets it by the threshold, meets his glare with a bored expression. Relax, soldier boy. Just bringing rations. He lowers the gun, nods, then stands stretching stiff muscles. Leora nods back and leaves, the door hissing shut. Silence again. At the back room entrance, Leora stands, leaning against a frame, arms crossed. The lines on her temples seem dimmer in the artificial light, but her eyes remain bright. She studies him. You sleep like a man with demons in his head. He shrugs. We all have them. A small, knowing smile. Yes. We do. He motions to the crate. Eat. Then we prepare. We'll need to head out soon for the over and belt. She nods. He grabs a ration pack, tossing one to her. She catches it deftly, sniffing it with a wrinkle of distaste. Humans and your processed proteins, she murmurs, but rips it open anyway. They eat in silence. The tension never leaves, but it settles into a shared, cautious acceptance. Once finished, they go through gear, extra ammunition, medkits, some forged identification that Leora provided at a hefty price. As they work side by side, their arms occasionally brush, sparking brief moments of awareness. Neither comments. But it's there, a hum just below the surface, an electric current waiting to be unleashed. Soon enough, the time arrives to depart. Jace shoulders his pack, checking the corridor. Leora stands close behind him, posture relaxed yet alert. Without a word, they step out together, navigating Neric Station's labyrinthine walkways until they reach a private hangar where Leora has arranged a small, shielded freighter. Officially, it's listed as carrying agricultural supplies. Unofficially, it's their ticket to the Overend Belt. They board quickly, sealing the hatch behind them. The interior is cramped, full of cargo containers stacked to the ceiling. There's just enough room for 2 seats in the cockpit. Jace slides into the pilot's seat, powering up the engines. Leora sits beside him, eyes scanning the readouts with a casual confidence that suggests she's no stranger to starship operations. As the freighter rumbles to life, a docking clamp releases them into the emptiness of space. Neric Station shrinks behind them, replaced by the swirling cosmos. He sets coordinates for the Overend Belt, leaning forward as he engages the ship's jump drive. Leora's gaze remains on him, unwavering. He can feel it, like a tangible heat pricking at his skin. You sure about this? She finally asks over the low roar of the engines. He nods, pressing the throttle. As sure as I've been about anything since my unit was slaughtered. A flicker in her eyes. Sympathy? Or something else? He can't be certain. Then hold on, she says softly. This is only the beginning. The freighter lurches, stars streaming into lines as they plunge into faster-than-light travel. The hum of the engines vibrates beneath their seats, a steady pulse that seems to merge with the rapid beating of his heart. For the first time, he lets himself wonder how far down this path he'll go, and whether or not this alien woman at his side is truly an ally, or simply another obstacle he'll eventually have to overcome. He grips the controls tighter. There's no turning back. And somehow, the knowledge that Leora is just as entangled in this conflict as he is adds a strange, heightened current to the entire journey. Hours later, they exit faster than light at the outskirts of the Overend Belt. Asteroids dot the region like floating wreckage, some large enough to carry hidden stations, others so small they look like drifting debris. The freighter's sensors ping with multiple contacts, mining vessels, rogue ships, and possibly the mobile station that Tyal uses to conduct his black market deals. Jace's blood rushes hot with renewed purpose. He maneuvers them carefully through the asteroid field, the freighter's hull groaning as it weaves between lumps of rock. Leora stays silent, tension radiating from her. She points at a sensor reading that indicates a large mass, half-shielded. There, she murmurs. Coordinates match what I have. That's probably the station. Or at least our best lead. He nods, adjusting course. With the flick of a switch, he powers down most non-essential systems, hoping to pass as a harmless transport. They drift closer, scanning for external defenses. The station is partially concealed by a massive asteroid. Its external hull bristles with sensor arrays, turrets, docking bays. Jace wonders how many ships come and go under the radar, enabling Tyal to peddle illegal weapons. His heart pounds at the thought of confronting the man behind his nightmares. "We'll dock covertly," he says, voice steady but eyes cold. "Then we find Tyal." She angles her body toward him. "All right, but don't rush in guns blazing. He'll have contingents of guards, maybe even my species enforcers. We need to be smart." He clenches his jaw. "Smart or not, he dies today." She doesn't argue, just nods. The tension between them spikes again, reminiscent of a loaded weapon. But they set that aside for the mission. Through a combination of forging ID signals and navigating the blind spots in the station's scanning patterns, they manage to latch onto a small docking port near the station's underbelly. Metal clamps lock onto the freighter. A hiss of equalizing pressure resonates through the hull. Jace and Leora exchange a final look, equal parts challenge and solidarity. Then they don helmets connected to their suits for minimal atmosphere support in the event of station sabotage. The hatch slides open, revealing a dimly lit corridor that leads deeper into the station's labyrinth. Jace leads, weapon at the ready, boots making soft thuds on the metal deck. Leora follows close, her gaze sweeping every corner, every vent, every shadow. The air here is stale, tinted with hints of lubricants and overheated machinery. Faint echoes of distant activity reverberate through the station's steel walls. They slip through hall after hall, guided by Leora's memory of Tyal's operational patterns, cross-referenced with Jace's knowledge of infiltration tactics. Finally, they come upon a large door sealed with advanced security. Voices can be heard within, muffled but urgent. Leora nods at the control panel. This is it. The place where Tyal holds his secret gatherings. Jace's jaw tightens. She attempts to bypass the lock, nimble fingers dancing over the keypad. A beep of denial. She curses softly. Another try. Another beep. Her frustration is palpable. Behind them, footsteps approach. Leora glances back, eyes wide. "We're out of time," she whispers, stepping aside so Jace can see the corridor. A guard squad is rounding the corner, armed and alert, clearly noticing two suspicious figures fiddling with a locked chamber. Jace acts on instinct. He opens fire before they can call an alarm. Leora leaps forward, her movements fluid as she dispatches one guard with a precise strike to the neck. Blaster bolts ricochet off the walls in a cacophony of sparks. When the last guard hits the floor, the corridor is filled with the acrid smell of burnt circuitry and ozone. Leora breathes hard, glancing at the locked door. "We need a keycard." "They might have it." She rifles through the guard's gear, eventually extracting a high-level pass. She tosses it to Jace. "Try that." He slots it into the panel. A green light flickers. The door slides open with a hydraulic whine, revealing a wide chamber beyond, ringed with computer terminals and shield generators. Figures scramble at the sudden intrusion. At the center of the room stands Tyal, tall and imposing, scars across his face from old battles. His eyes lock on Jace. Recognition flickers, followed by a cruel grin. "Well, well? The survivor." Tyval's voice rumbles across the space. "I hoped I'd see you again. You're more persistent than the rest of your team was." Rage flashes through Jace like a supernova. He levels his weapon at Tyal, heart hammering. "Your last mistake was letting me live." Tyval's grin widens. "We'll see about that." He gestures, and a half-dozen heavily armed mercenaries spread out, weapons trained on Jace and Leora. The standoff crackles with lethal energy. Leora stands at Jace's side, eyes fixed on Tyal with a hatred that nearly rivals Jace's. Tyal notes her presence, arching a brow. "Leora, I thought your people had bigger fish to fry than meddle in my business. Didn't you get enough from our previous arrangement?" She bares her teeth. "You broke every promise you made to us. You sold out our covert channels, turned us into scapegoats. Now you pay." Tyal chuckles darkly. "Some deals are meant to be broken." But I admit you made me quite wealthy first. Jace tenses, scanning for cover, for angles of escape or assault. Enough talk, he growls. He squeezes the trigger, a shot aimed directly at Tyval's chest. But Tyval anticipated it. A shimmering energy shield snaps into place, deflecting the blast. The mercenaries open fire, forcing Jace and Leora to dive behind a row of consoles. Sparks rain down as the station's delicate systems take damage. Tyval disappears behind a barrier, barking orders to his men. Leora rolls to a crouch, snapping off shots that take out 2 mercenaries. Jace breathes heavily, eyes blazing with fury. They exchange a look. There's no going back now. The next moments become a chaos of blaster fire and screams. Jace leaps forward, drawing a combat knife when close quarters are forced. He slams into a mercenary, slashing across the man's armored vest. The merc staggers, and Leora dispatches him with a shot to the back. Exhaustion creeps in quickly. They're outnumbered. But each merc that falls peels away Tyval's layer of protection. Jace catches sight of Tyval moving toward a rear exit, no doubt escaping to a personal ship. He curses, pressing forward. A barrage of shots rains down, nearly pinning him behind cover. Leora grits her teeth, returning fire. Her lines glow fiercely, a testament to her adrenaline and the alien physiology that sometimes heightens her senses. Jace sees an opening. He lunges across the open space, firing at the last mercenary blocking the path. The man crumples, leaving Tyval momentarily unguarded. Tyval turns, aiming a high-powered pistol. Jace's eyes flash with raw hatred as he charges, ignoring the burn in his arm from a grazing shot. Blaster bolts scorch the air between them. Tyval's shield flares under repeated impacts. Just when Jace thinks he has the advantage, the shield expands, knocking him back with a concussive wave that sends him sprawling. Leora, panting, rushes to flank Tyval. She's quicker, more agile, her alien reflexes allowing her to dodge the blasts of the shield as she tries to find a chink in its defenses. But Tyval's technology is advanced, likely something he procured from her own people's black market. Each time she attempts to breach it, it repels her. Tyval laughs, stepping closer to Jace, who's struggling to stand. You've come all this way just to die beneath my boot. He levels the pistol at Jace's head. A pity. I wanted a better hunt. A sudden movement draws Tyval's attention. Leora's eyes flare with that luminous gold. She rips a side panel off the wall, revealing the energy conduits that power the station's systems. Tyval hesitates, realizing too late what she's doing. With a vicious yank, she tears out a power relay. Sparks fly, an overload surges through the circuitry, and the shield generator flickers with a dying hum. Tyval's protective field collapses. Jace sees the opening. He lunges upward, wrapping an arm around Tyval's pistol hand, forcing it wide. The weapon discharges into the ceiling. Tyval snarls, elbowing Jace in the ribs. Pain explodes, but Jace ignores it, smashing his forehead into Tyval's face. Blood sprays as Tyval staggers. Leora, quick as a striking serpent, levels her blaster and fires. The shot tears through Tyval's side, dropping him to one knee. Jace is on him in a heartbeat, wrestling the pistol away. Tyval tries to lash out, but the searing wound in his side saps his strength. Jace presses the barrel of his own weapon to Tyval's temple, eyes wild with vengeance. Tyval sneers, blood dribbling from his mouth. Finish it, Tyval spits. Do it. Jace's breathing is ragged, chest heaving. His vision tunnels, consumed by the memory of his dying squadmates. The gun trembles in his grip. Leora watches, weapon ready, not interfering. It's his kill to make. Jace pulls the trigger. The shot resonates in the chamber, echoing off steel walls. Tyval's body slumps, lifeless. For a moment, Jace just stands there, holding the weapon, heart pounding so hard it hurts. Leora lowers her blaster, exhaling slowly. The triumphant adrenaline in her eyes is tempered by something else. Relief? Satisfaction? It's hard to read. She steps over the corpse, approaches Jace. His entire frame trembles with pent-up rage and release. He looks at her, tears of furious triumph threatening to surface. "It's done," he whispers. "Finally." She inclines her head, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Yes. You have your vengeance. But this is just a piece of the puzzle. His network is vast. Others will step in if we don't dismantle it." His eyes shift to her face, a flicker of realization crossing his features. "You're right. This can't end here. Not if we want to stop more bloodshed." She nods, and for a split second, their gazes lock in a moment of pure, raw understanding. The exhaustion of the fight weighs on them both, but the charge between them is undeniable. She breaks eye contact first, moving to the console to see if there's anything worth retrieving, files, data, anything that might help them unravel the rest of Tyal's network. As she works, Jace leans against the scorched wall, chest still heaving. The wave of adrenaline crashes, leaving behind a throbbing emptiness. He finds himself studying her profile. Everything about her is alien, yet there's a familiarity in her grit, her willingness to see this through. Maybe vengeance is universal. She pulls a data core from the console, tucking it away. Then she looks at him, a question in her gaze. "Are you ready to go?" "The station's on the brink of meltdown. I overloaded some systems to bring down his shield, and it won't hold long." He nods, pushing off the wall. "Lead the way." They sprint through the corridors, ignoring the blaring alarms now echoing through the station. Steam vents from ruptured pipes, sparks shower from overhead wiring. By the time they reach the docking bay, the floor is quaking under their feet. They clamber back into the freighter, sealing the hatch amid system warnings. Jace powers up the engines, forcing them off the station with emergency thrusters. Behind them, the station's lights flicker and gutter. Explosions ripple along its structure as partial meltdown sets in. They watch from the cockpit as chunks of debris drift away, the station wounded but not fully destroyed. Jace sets a course away from the chaos, aiming for empty space. Leora, silent, gazes at the smoldering remains. Then she turns to him, her voice hushed. "You got what you wanted. And I got what I needed, his data. This is a victory of sorts." He leans back in the pilot's chair, letting out a long breath. "Yeah. A victory." But as the adrenaline seeps away, a strange hollowness tugs at him. He's spent so long chasing Tyal, he never planned for what happened after. Now he's left with a half-formed sense of purpose. The network remains. She's right, there's more to do. She watches him intently, as though reading the conflict in his posture. Something in her expression softens. The tension between them shifts subtly. Neither is sure how to label it, but it's there, a potent mixture of lingering hostility and growing attraction. They're alive, battered, and forced into an alliance that's only growing deeper. He meets her gaze. 1,000 unspoken words pass between them: gratitude, resentment, curiosity, hunger. Finally, she breaks away, rising from her seat, arms folded to hide her own unease. "I'm going to check the data in the hold. Make sure it's intact." He gives a curt nod. "I'll set course for somewhere we can lay low. Then we'll talk about our next move." She lingers a second longer, eyes lingering on him in a way that makes his blood thrum. But no more words are exchanged. She walks out, leaving him alone with the hum of the engines and the aftertaste of battle. He slumps in the chair, raking a hand through his hair. The image of her golden skin, the lines that glowed with her rising adrenaline, the fierce way she fought at his side, it's burned into his mind. He knows the mission isn't over. They still have an entire network to dismantle, a war to prevent. But with Tyal dead, the greatest personal demon from his past is laid to rest. That should be enough. Yet it isn't. There's a pull, something drawing him to Leora, something more than just the synergy of two warriors in battle. He can't allow that distraction. Or maybe he can't stop it. Either way, they're on this path together now. And the deeper they go, the more tangled their fates become. He sets the freighter on autopilot, a course for a remote sector rumored to harbor neutral trading posts. As soon as that's done, he heads toward the cargo hold, where Leora is hunched over a portable console. The overhead lights flicker uncertainly, reflecting off the faint luminescence along her temples. She's focused, lips pressed tight as data streams across the screen. How bad is it? He asks, stepping closer. He tries not to notice the subtle scent that always seems to cling to her, a mix of metallic ozone and a hint of something floral, yet alien. She flicks a glance at him. We got a partial data map. Tyal's network is extensive, reaching from your territories into mine. Some of these ties go straight to the highest echelons of my people's hierarchy. She exhales sharply. If we were to release all of this at once, we'd ignite an interstellar scandal. Powers would scramble, alliances would shatter. It would mean war. He folds his arms. We can't just bury it either. These weapons deals will continue unless we expose them or dismantle them one by one. Her gaze meets his, intense. Agreed. But we have to be strategic. My people aren't exactly forgiving. If they see I'm involved, they'll do worse than a mere cell. They'll make me an example. He nods, stepping in to see the screen. I've got some contacts among the Outer Rim resistors, people who hate what Tyal and his associates stood for. We could funnel the intel to them, discreetly. Her eyes flick over him. And put a target on your head, too. He smirks grimly. Already got one. Doesn't make much difference. She lowers her gaze. You're serious about stopping this, aren't you? I didn't risk my life rescuing you just to walk away now. She nods, lips parting as if to say more, but she closes them, focusing back on the data. He watches her slender fingers move across the screen, noticing how occasionally she'll pause and rub her temple lines, as if the strain is more than just mental. Something about her physiology? He leans in. You okay? She tenses at the question, like it's too personal. Just tired. Using my abilities to hack security, to sense danger, it drains me. It's not something I talk about. He raises a brow. You used it in the fight too, didn't you? Tapping into the station's power system? She nods, still not meeting his eyes. A partial synergy between technology and my body. It's complicated. He considers that, thinking of her luminous lines. He wonders just how deep her abilities go, and why she's so guarded about them. But he doesn't press. They stand in silence for a moment, the engines hum the only sound. He can feel the tension, an undercurrent that's no longer just about the mission. There's an undeniable gravity in the small space, pulling them closer even as they resist. Finally, she closes the console. We should rest. Tomorrow, we decide our next steps. He nods, stepping back. Right. I'll do another check on the cockpit. Make sure we're still clear of any trackers. They part ways with a fleeting glance. He feels that familiar pang of awareness as she walks off, something warm and unsettling. Shaking it off, he heads back to the bridge, scanning the ship's external sensors, verifying no one has followed them from the wrecked station. Once satisfied, he dims the cockpit lights and eases into the pilot's seat. Sleep is elusive. Every time he closes his eyes, images of the day's firefight flood his mind, along with flashes of Leora's intense stare. After an hour of restless shifting, he paces back through the corridor, checking the living quarters. It's just a small bunk for the pilot. The cargo hold is mostly taken up by the contraband crates. He finds Leora in a corner, kneeling on a small mat she must have fashioned from the ship's supplies, eyes closed, arms draped over her knees. Her breathing is slow, controlled. Meditation? He steps closer, curious. She senses him. Her eyelids flutter open. The glow of her lines is subdued. She sighs softly. Couldn't sleep? He shakes his head. You either, I guess. She gives a non-committal shrug. Sleep doesn't come easy after a day like this. Her gaze flicks over him, reading his tension. Sit if you want. He hesitates, then sinks down against the metal wall a few feet from her. He draws one knee up, letting his arm rest on it. The quiet weighs on them, but it's not entirely uncomfortable. There's an intimacy in shared exhaustion. He can't help but notice how her posture is perfectly balanced, how the curve of her spine accentuates the delicate glow of her body lines. I saw what you did. he eventually murmurs, voice low. Back there, in the fight. You saved me more than once. She tilts her head, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. You're welcome. He breathes out a sound that might be a laugh. Yeah. Thanks. Silence again. Then he steels himself, deciding to push a little further. Why did you really defect from your people? Her gaze drops. That's complicated. Suffice to say, not all of us agreed with the direction our leaders were taking. Some believed in forging alliances with humans, or other species. But that threatened the power structure. She exhales softly. I questioned the wrong people. Suddenly, I became expendable. He nods, the weight of understanding settling in. So Tyal used you? In a sense. I thought we had a mutual goal, profit, intelligence sharing, opening trade routes. But his true motives were twisted. He sold out my people's secret research, fueling war instead of bridging peace. A flash of anger crosses her features. I refused to be a pawn, so I fled. He listens, realizing how similar their stories are in a twisted way. Both used, both betrayed, both bent on some kind of redemption, if that's even the right word. The tension between them hums more intensely in the confined space, hearts thrumming with unspent energy. She meets his gaze. And you, Jace? After you lost your unit, was it just revenge that kept you going? His throat tightens at the memory. Yes, he admits. I'd watch the recordings of the ambush, replay every face lost, every scream. I swore I'd hunt down the ones responsible, no matter how long it took. He runs a hand over his shaved scalp. It was my fault they died. I was the one who led them in, trusting faulty intel. He expects a rebuke, but her expression softens. Guilt is a burden that can twist you. Don't let it devour you entirely. He finds himself nodding despite the ache in his chest. Something about her understanding is unexpectedly comforting. They hold each other's gaze for a long moment. Then she closes her eyes again, trying to settle back into a meditative calm. He watches her profile, the graceful lines of her face, the faint luminescent markings that shimmer when she breathes deeply. He lies down on his back, staring at the cargo bay ceiling. At some point, the gentle rhythm of her breathing lulls him to a half-sleep. It's a brief, uneasy rest, but better than nothing. When he opens his eyes again, he's not sure how much time has passed. The freighter's hum is steady, and dim lighting suggests they're still in a safe corridor of space. He hears a faint movement, her shifting posture. She's awake, or maybe she never truly slept. He sits up, rubbing at his neck. Their eyes lock in the muted glow. Something unspoken passes between them. Attraction pulses, undeniable. He senses her reluctance, the caution that mirrors his own. Yet neither of them can fully bury the magnetic pull that's steadily grown since that moment in the black site when he pinned her against the wall. She slowly stands, crossing the space. There's a boldness in her stance, but also a vulnerability flickering behind her eyes, as if she's unsure what to do with this tension. We keep dancing around this, she murmurs, voice low. He pushes himself upright, heart rate spiking. It's not part of the mission. She almost smiles at that. No, it isn't. For a heartbeat, they hover at the edge of something that could change everything. He can practically taste the electricity in the air. Then, as if pulled by invisible strings, their bodies close the distance, barely inches apart. Her gaze flicks to his lips, but neither moves in for a kiss. Not yet. It's a silent test of wills, a question of who will break first. He can feel her breath, feel the heat of her body. The memory of her lethal grace, the sight of her glowing lines as she tore into those guards, floods his mind. She's dangerous, cunning, and everything about her sets his nerves on edge in both fear and desire. That paradox draws him in more than any sense of caution could hold him back. Her eyelids flutter as if she's fighting her own instincts. We should stop. It's too soon. Yeah, he breathes, but makes no move to retreat. We should. Neither steps away. The moment stretches. Then she gives a frustrated laugh, turning her head slightly as though to break the spell. You're as stubborn about this as you are about everything else. He forces a rough chuckle. Guess so. They part, tension crackling even stronger in the silence that follows. She exhales, running a hand through the delicate ridges on her scalp. We should focus on the data. Find our next target in Tyal's network. He nods. Right. They slip into a state of forced normalcy, returning to the console to parse through stolen files. The flicker of desire still looms, but they bury it beneath the necessity of planning. For hours, they sift through encryption, piece together communications logs, follow the threads to sub-bosses, financiers, arms dealers. It's an unholy web that crosses species lines, linking back to Leora's own people in more ways than she seems comfortable acknowledging. Eventually, Jace leans back, rubbing his eyes. We can't do this alone. We need more resources, more manpower. She's stoic, scanning file after file. Who can we trust? Your human government? My exiled contacts? Everyone wants a piece of the black market. He bites his lip, thinking. I know a rebel cell near the Curry boundary. They're small, but they hate Tyal's empire building. If we can convince them we have a shot at tearing down his network, they might help. She shrugs, exhausted. One cell against an interstellar cartel. Odds are slim. He nods, meeting her gaze. But we don't have a better lead. She stares at him, something like admiration flickering in her metallic gaze. Then we go. The freighter emerges from faster-than-light near a battered planet ringed by orbital debris. Old war relics, defunct satellites, chunks of destroyed ships. This is the Curry boundary, once a front line in a brutal conflict. Now it's a graveyard. Jace maneuvers the freighter past drifting wreckage, scanning for the rebels' hidden outpost. Leora leans forward, her posture tense. There! She points to a structure carved into the largest chunk of debris, its faint energy signature barely detectable. That must be the base. He guides them in, mentally reviewing his contact's name, Orin, a veteran of some war that overshadowed even Jace's personal vendetta. Orin owes him a favor. That might be enough to secure a meeting. As the ship docks, sealed metal doors clamp around them like a hungry mouth, swallowing them into the drifting station. Lights flicker, pressurization sets in, and the airlock slides open. They step onto a graded walkway, greeted by the dull red emergency lighting that reveals a band of rebels armed to the teeth. At their head is Orin, a gaunt man with a bionic eye and half his face scarred from plasma burns. He glances at Jace, then at Leora, expression unreadable. Jace, he says quietly, voice like gravel. Didn't think I'd see you again. Jace nods, stepping forward with caution. I've got a proposition for you, Orin. We found intel that can dismantle a major arms network fueling half the region's conflicts. Orin's gaze slides to Leora, distrust evident. And who's this? She lifts her chin, eyes cold. Leora. Jace clears his throat. She knows more about Tyal's operation than anyone. She defected from her own people to help bring him down. Orin's single organic eye narrows. You want me to trust her because you say so? He gestures at his men, who tighten their grips on their weapons. Jace remains calm. I'm asking for a hearing, not blind trust. Look at the data we have. If you still think we're lying, turn us away. Orin studies them both, his bionic eye whirring softly. Then he grunts and motions for them to follow. They do, stepping deeper into the labyrinthine station. Corridors are lined with stacked crates of ammunition, signs of a ragtag but determined force. Soot stains the walls, interspersed with rebel slogans. The entire place smells of recycled air and desperation. They pass a handful of grim-faced fighters, each eyeing Leora suspiciously. She keeps her posture regal, refusing to shrink under their scrutiny. They enter a makeshift command center. Flickering holoscreens illuminate a battered metal table littered with star maps and half-eaten ration packs. Orin gestures for them to sit. Jace tenses, but Leora eases down, meeting Orin's stare head-on. Silence reigns for a few beats. Then Jace reaches into a pouch, pulling out the data core. Here. Tyal's networks, encrypted files, shipping manifests, everything we could copy. We need your resources to decipher some of it and to mount a strike. Oren's lips twist in skepticism. And why would we risk our necks for your personal vendetta? Leora fixes Oren with a heated gaze. Because it's not just about Jace's revenge. Tyval's network is enabling an arms race across multiple systems. If it continues, entire planets will burn. You think your station is safe? You're a pebble in a landslide. A slow hush falls. One of Oren's lieutenants steps forward, scanning the data. Jace hears a low whistle. This is bigger than we thought, Oren, the lieutenant murmurs. There are references to advanced weapon prototypes. Some mention that even the so-called enlightened species are playing both sides of conflicts. Oren taps the table, scowling. So we're facing a handful of the galaxy's most influential warlords, plus shady corporations, plus possibly entire governments. Suicide. Jace sets his jaw. We don't have to topple them all at once. We start by hitting their supply lines. We cut them off, disrupt shipments, expose alliances. Oren shakes his head, half in disbelief. We're a small rebel cell, 50 fighters at most. You expect us to fight this monster because of a moral call? Leora stands, her eyes blazing with conviction. Fight it because you don't have a choice. If Tyval's successors seize the advanced weaponry, they'll crush rebellions like yours in a blink. You either help us or watch your cause smothered beneath unstoppable violence. Oren's men exchange uneasy glances. The battered rebel leader leans back, crossing his arms. Fine. We'll analyze your intel, see if we can identify a weak link in the chain. But no promises beyond that. Jace exhales a silent breath of relief. That's all we ask for now. Oren nods curtly, then waves a hand. We'll start decrypting. You two, get out of my sight for a while. There's a bunk area down the hall. Don't wander too far. They step away, grateful for the pause in hostility. Down the corridor, they find a small room with a pair of cots separated by little more than a gap. The metal walls sweat condensation from the station's inconsistent climate control. It's cramped, but it's somewhere to rest. Jace tosses his pack on one cot, Leora claims the other. She looks around, unimpressed, but says nothing. Tension lingers between them. The brush with near-death is fresh in their minds, fueling the undercurrent of desire that neither is ready to fully confront. Instead, they slip into a tenuous calm, each grappling with their own thoughts. He removes his jacket, examining the fresh burns and bruises from the fight with Tyval's mercenaries. She watches him quietly, noticing the mottled skin along his arms. You need those treated, she finally says. He shrugs. I've had worse. She stands, crossing the space in a few strides, rummaging through a medkit on a shelf. Sit. It's a command, gentle but firm. He raises a brow. Why do you care? She levels a glare at him. Because if you collapse from an infection, we can't finish our mission. She gestures again for him to sit. He relents, lowering himself to the cot. She kneels beside him, running a handheld scanner over his injuries. The device hums, displaying results on a small screen. Minor plasma burns, contusions, hairline fracture in one rib. She mutters something in her native language. Then she applies a salve that stings, but quickly numbs the pain. Her touch lingers longer than necessary, and he can't ignore how close she is, how the subtle glow of her skin distracts him. His breath catches. She pretends not to notice, focusing on applying bandages. But her voice is quieter than before, and he hears a faint tremor in it when she finally speaks. Hold still, she murmurs. This might sting. He grits his teeth, letting her work. Beneath that clinical focus, a new tension coils. The distance between them is almost non-existent, her hand occasionally brushing his. When she finishes, she doesn't move away immediately. He finds himself raising a hand, almost touching the luminous line along her temple. At the last second, he stops, balling his fingers into a fist. She sees the gesture and tilts her head, curiosity sparking in her eyes. For an instant, he thinks she might lean into his touch, but instead she stands abruptly, shoving the medkit back onto the shelf with more force than necessary. That should do. she says, voice rough. He nods, clearing his throat, trying to rid himself of the tangled emotions swirling in his chest. Thank you? She offers a curt nod in return, turning away. Get some sleep if you can. He watches her for a moment, wanting to say something, anything, to break this tension that's building. But words fail him. In the end, he swings his legs onto the cot, lying down with a grunt as pain flares in his rib. She sits on the opposite cot, back against the wall, arms draped around her knees. The overhead light flickers, casting her face an alternating shadow and glow. They don't speak. Minutes drag by, and the station's quiet hum envelopes them. At some point, Jace's injuries and exhaustion lure him into a fitful sleep, haunted by images of Tyval's corpse and the knowledge that more violence lies ahead. He awakens to the shrill beep of a comm device. Leora is already up, rummaging through her pack. She glances at him with a tight expression. Orin wants us in the command center. They've found something. He shakes off the remnants of grogginess, wincing at the ache in his side. Together, they hurry down the corridor to find Orin and his lieutenants gathered around a holodisplay. They turn as Jace and Leora enter, grim expressions etched on their faces. Orin gestures to the flickering display. We decrypted part of Tyval's logs. Looks like a major arms shipment is headed to an unregulated spaceport on the fringes of the Elver system. They're dealing in what's called phase bombs. Nasty stuff that can tear holes in planetary crusts. A cold shiver runs down Jace's spine. So if those bombs go through, entire worlds could be blackmailed or destroyed. Orin nods, face bleak. This is bigger than I imagined, even bigger than your personal crusade, Jace. We have to stop that shipment, or we're all done for. Leora presses her lips together. We might have a narrow window to intercept. Once it lands on Elver, the bombs will be distributed across multiple locations. After that, it's impossible to track them all. Orin looks between them. I can spare 2 ships and about 10 fighters. That's it. The rest of our resources are tied up defending this outpost. If the shipment is as heavily guarded as we suspect, you'll be outmatched. Jace glances at Leora. He sees that determined gleam in her eyes, the same fire that burned when she helped him kill Tyval. We've faced worse odds. She lifts her chin, stepping up to the holodisplay. All right, we planned the strike carefully. We can't allow them to realize we know about the cargo. We'll pose as potential buyers, perhaps. Orin's lieutenant snorts. And when they see only a handful of us show up, they'll open fire on sight. Leora's gaze sharpens. We keep most of our forces hidden. Jace and I do the negotiating. Once we're close enough, we sabotage their ship, then your men ambush from behind. If done right, we take the bombs intact and leave them with no route to retaliate. Orin rubs his jaw. Risky. But it might work. We'll move out within the hour. The meeting breaks. Jace and Leora remain by the holodisplay, finalizing details. Their shoulders brush occasionally, each contact sending a spark through Jace's nerves. He can tell she feels it too. Her breath quickens, and her glances linger. But they keep the conversation professional. As they prepare to depart, Orin's men load gear onto 2 small starfighters that will provide cover, while Jace and Leora board a disguised cargo shuttle with a handful of rebels. The plan is set. The tension is high. Jace feels the swirl of adrenaline in his gut, a blend of fear and purpose that has become far too familiar. They break from the outpost, slipping into faster-than-light travel toward the Elver system. The rebel radio chatter hums in Jace's earpiece. Leora stands near him at the helm, triple-checking forging documents that identify them as black market traders. She glances up. You ready for this? He stares at the swirling starlight outside. I don't think I've been ready for anything since the day my team died. But let's do it. She allows herself a small, grim smile. Let's. When they exit jump near the fringes of Elver, the system's main star casts a pallid light over the cargo shuttle. Scans reveal a single large freighter in orbit around a barren moon, with smaller escort ships floating nearby. Jace feels his pulse quicken. This is where the bombs are, likely guarded by mercenaries or leftover loyalists of Tyval's network. They'll be suspicious, on edge. He calms his breathing. Leora steps closer, her presence steadying him in an odd way. Transmitting our forged credentials, she says quietly. Let's hope they believe we're just scum like them. A static-laced voice crackles over the comm. Unidentified shuttle, state your business. Leora nods at him. He presses the transmit button. Trader vessel Sirocco, here to buy advanced munitions. We got word from a mutual contact. If you have the product, we have the credits. There's a tense pause. Jace glances at Leora. She keeps her posture relaxed, but her skin lines are glowing faintly, signifying her heightened senses. Finally, the voice returns. Dock at port side. Any funny business, we blow you to dust. Acknowledge. Understood. Jace replies, voice clipped. He cuts the channel. Leora exhales softly. They maneuver toward the massive freighter, aligning with a docking clamp. Two rebel fighters remain at a distance, out of sensor range, ready to swoop in once the sabotage starts. Jace can feel the tension in each breath. When the shuttle's airlock attaches, they open the hatch to a group of armed mercenaries. Their leader, a scarred alien with reptilian features, gestures curtly with a rifle. Move! Keep your hands visible! Jace and Leora comply, escorted through a labyrinth of corridors that smell of metal and stale air, eventually arriving in a cargo hold the size of a small stadium. Massive crates line the walls, with suspicious glyphs that likely indicate dangerous materials. Leora steps forward, adopting a haughty tone. We heard you have specialized ordnance, phase bombs. We'd like to inspect one. The reptilian merc squints, analyzing her. Who's your contact? She shrugs. Names aren't cheap, friend. We can pay top credit if your product is what we need. Otherwise, we move on. A menacing hiss escapes the merc's throat. Follow me. They wind deeper into the hold, rebels trailing behind with feigned disinterest, each of them quietly scanning for vantage points or sabotage opportunities. The merc stops at a large container. He punches in a code, and the doors slide open, revealing cylindrical warheads, faint lights blinking along their sides. Jace swallows hard. The destructive potential in front of them is enough to reduce entire cities to rubble. Leora keeps her poker face, leaning in to examine one of the bombs. Looks genuine, she says, tapping a hidden display that flares with ominous readings. Payment? Jace steps up, producing a hollow chit. The merc is about to snatch it when an alarm chimes overhead. Security breach detected. A robotic voice drones. Jace's stomach clenches. Did the rebels move too soon, or did someone sniff out their ruse? The merc roars, leveling his rifle. You traitorous scum! He attempts to fire, but Leora is quicker, knocking his weapon aside. The shot ricochets wildly. Jace ducks, drawing his own blaster. Chaos erupts. Mercenaries flood the cargo hold from every angle, weapons blazing. Rebel fighters swoop in overhead. The cargo hold's roof rattles as docking clamps are forcibly detached. Explosions rock the freighter's hull. Jace dives behind a stack of crates, returning fire. Leora leaps onto a container, using the vantage point to pick off two mercs with precise shots. Rebels fan out, exchanging deadly rounds with the defending forces. The air becomes thick with smoke and screams. A bullet grazes Jace's arm. He grits his teeth, pressing a hand to the bleeding wound. Leora calls out over the din. We have to neutralize the bombs or get them out of here. He waves a hand, signaling half the rebels to secure the cargo while the others hold off the mercs. Leora springs down, landing beside him. We can't leave these bombs floating around. Any stray shot could detonate them. She yanks open a control panel on the side of one warhead. Her eyes flick across the readouts, lines on her temples brightening as she tries to override the bomb's detonation sequence. Jace covers her, firing at any merc who dares approach. The ear-splitting shriek of metal bending under stress resonates through the hold. The freighter is losing structural integrity. Finally, she manages to lock down the bomb's triggers. We've got to get these off the ship. The hull's about to collapse. Jace hollers at the rebels, motioning for them to attach grappling rigs to the bomb crates. One by one, they begin hauling them toward the main docking bay. Fire spreads along the bulkheads. Electricity arcs from severed cables, lighting the carnage with ghostly flashes. The mercenary forces, sensing defeat, start to retreat toward escape pods, but pockets of resistance remain. As Jace helps guide a crate, a massive explosion rips through a nearby corridor, sending him sprawling. Pain spears his side, and his vision blackens for a split second. Leora is at his side instantly, grabbing his collar and dragging him away from collapsing debris. She cradles his head, scanning his injuries with frantic eyes. "Stay with me," she murmurs, voice trembling with a mixture of command and concern. He coughs, spitting blood. His ribs ache like molten knives, but he forces himself upright. She stabilizes him, pressing a hand to his chest as if to sense how badly he's hurt. "I'm fine," he rasps, though every nerve in his body protests. "We need to move." She nods, helping him limp toward the docking bay, where the rebels are loading the bombs onto the shuttle. More blasts rock the freighter, and the whole structure lists to one side. They stagger, nearly losing their footing. Sparks rain from the overhead lights. Sirens wail in every direction. Finally, they reach the shuttle with seconds to spare. The last of the rebels push the cargo on board, slapping the control to seal the hatch. Leora supports Jace as they collapse into the hold. The engines roar, and the shuttle blasts free from the doomed freighter. Through the small viewport, they watch as the enormous vessel tears apart in a violent chain reaction, sending flaming wreckage spinning into the void. The shuttle shudders from the shockwave, but holds course. Jace exhales shakily, adrenaline crashing. Blood seeps through the torn fabric at his side, and his vision swims. Leora's hands press down on the wound, trying to stanch the flow. "Don't you dare die on me," she growls. He tries to focus on her face, the fierce glow of her eyes, the determined set of her jaw. The pain is overwhelming, but a small part of him marvels at how her presence steadies him. She yells for the medkit, and a rebel rushes over, administering a coagulant. Jace hisses in agony, feeling the burn of the injection. When the procedure is done, and the bleeding is stopped, he slumps against the cargo crate, breathing in ragged gasps. Leora crouches beside him, that unyielding gaze searching his face. "You're losing consciousness," she states, voice tinged with anger and fear. "Stay awake." He forces his eyes open. "You should see the other guy," he jokes weakly, coughing. A faint grin touches her lips despite the situation. She cups his cheek, just for a moment, her thumb grazing the rough stubble there. Her breath hitches, and for a second, her mask of bravado cracks, revealing concern. The rest of the shuttle is a flurry of activity, rebels securing the warheads and doing triage on the wounded. Somehow, amidst the chaos, Jace and Leora remain locked in this private moment. He can see the swirl of conflicting emotions in her metallic gaze: anger, relief, confusion, maybe something deeper. He knows they're not out of danger, but for now, they've thwarted a disastrous arms deal. She presses her forehead gently to his, ignoring the shocked glances of nearby rebels. "Don't die," she repeats, this time more softly. He breathes her in, catching that faint, exotic scent that's become so familiar. His vision blurs again. He summons enough strength to whisper, "I'm not going anywhere." She closes her eyes, exhaling a tremulous breath. Good. Time passes in disjointed flashes. He's dimly aware of the shuttle returning to the rebel outpost, being carried on a stretcher, going through painful medical treatments. A few times he surfaces from the darkness to find Leora at his bedside, or prowling the corridor in anxious frustration. Her presence is a constant anchor in the haze of pain. Days later, though it feels like weeks, he fully wakes in a cramped infirmary bunk. His ribs are tightly bandaged, and in 4 drip feeds him a dull fluid. He blinks in the fluorescent glare, confusion settling. Then memory rushes back: the bombs, the firefight, the freighter's destruction. A familiar silhouette looms in the doorway. Leora steps in, arms crossed. Her expression brightens slightly when she sees he's conscious, though she tries to mask it. You took your sweet time waking up, she says, voice thin with relief. He tries to shift, wincing at the stab of pain. How long? 3 days, she replies, stepping closer. They had to do some serious patchwork on your lung. But you'll live. He nods, letting out a slow breath. The bombs? She nods. Safely dismantled. Oren's people are shipping them to a secure location. That deal is off the table, for good. He closes his eyes briefly, relief pulsing through him. We did it. Her lips curve in a small smile. For now. But there will be others. He looks at her, at the shadows under her eyes, the tension in her posture. You should rest too. She shakes her head, pulling a stool beside the bunk and sitting down. I've been in worse shape, trust me. Besides, I had to make sure you pulled through. Her last words are softer, a hint of vulnerability creeping into her tone. He nods, swallowing hard. Thank you? She studies him for a moment. We're not done, you know. Tyal's network is still out there. We severed a major branch, but the trunk remains. And my people. She trails off, the lines on her temples glowing faintly with tension. You're still planning to take them on? He asks, voice hoarse. She sets her jaw. I have to. They started all this, enabling monsters like Tyal, fueling wars for profit. I won't let them continue unchallenged. He tries to sit up more, ignoring the pain. I'll help. She arches a brow. You owe me nothing. You got your revenge on Tyal. He reaches out, touching her hand with careful intent. It's not just revenge anymore. I can't watch the galaxy burn. So if you're going to fight, I'm with you. Her eyes flick to his hand over hers, and she doesn't pull away. Her skin is still warm, the faint luminescence dancing under his touch. The moment feels charged, heavy with everything they've been through. She exhales, and he senses her guard lowering just a fraction. Why? She asks softly, the question layered with meaning beyond just the mission. He hesitates, searching for an answer. Part of it is that he's finally found a purpose beyond vengeance. Part of it is her, this alien woman who's become entangled in his life in ways he never expected. He meets her gaze, feeling the rush of attraction he's been fighting from the start. Because I'm done running from the bigger fight. She nods slowly, and for the first time, there's a glimmer of genuine warmth in her eyes. All right, Jace. She gently squeezes his hand, then withdraws. Rest now. Heal. We'll plan our next move when you're ready. He settles back against the pillows, heart thrumming with a mix of determination and something else, something akin to hope. As she stands to leave, he catches her wrist. She turns, brow quirked. Stay for a minute, he murmurs, surprising even himself with the request. Her expression wavers, conflict flashing in her eyes, but she slowly sits back down. They share the quiet space, either speaking. It's enough, for now, just to feel the closeness, to know that they've transcended mere grudging allies. A week passes in that grim outpost as Jace recovers. The rebels continue small-scale operations, chipping away at Tyal's associates. Each day, Leora briefs him on new intelligence from the stolen data, unraveling hidden conspiracies. The two of them grow more comfortable with each other. He catches her scanning him with a worried frown when she thinks he's not looking. She catches him staring at her luminous lines, fascinated despite himself. They spar once he's well enough, pushing each other physically under the guise of training. She's fast, slippery. More than once, she pins him, or nearly knocks him flat. He can feel the rush of her closeness, the adrenaline blending with a simmering attraction that's become impossible to ignore. Their words are laced with flirtatious taunts, jabs that carry a subtext far more intimate than hostility. One afternoon, they end a sparring session in a tangle of limbs on the floor. He braces himself over her, sweat dripping onto her skin. She smirks, hooking a leg around his waist to roll him aside, but he resists. For a long moment, they freeze, breath mingling. Her eyes narrow playfully. Getting bold, aren't you? He musters a grin, though his heart thuds in his chest. Maybe I'm just learning how to counter your moves. She arches a brow, and beneath that combat tension, a different tension pulses. Then counter this. She twists deftly, flipping him onto his back, straddling him. He exhales sharply, pinned by her thighs. The overhead lights make the lines on her temples gleam like molten gold. He can't tear his eyes away from her face, the slight parting of her lips, the heat in her expression. He lifts a hand, hesitating at her jawline. She doesn't move away. "You're good," he says quietly. "Damn good." Her breath is ragged. "Tell me something I don't know." He cups her cheek, hard hammering. It's a charged moment, the line between sparring and something far more intimate. He can feel her pulse through the tension of her body. She leans in, lips hovering near his. She's testing him, daring him to cross that final boundary. He surges upward, capturing her mouth in a fierce, unyielding kiss. She inhales sharply against his lips, her body tensing in surprise. Then she responds with equal fervor, a clash of tongues and teeth that feels like another battle, each trying to gain the upper hand. His hands grasp her hips, pulling her closer. She grips his shoulders, nails digging in, not gentle. Every moment is charged with the pent-up desire that's been building for so long. They break apart, gasping, eyes locked. Her voice trembles as she murmurs, "You have no idea what you're getting into, human." He smirks, still breathing hard. "I'm getting a pretty good idea." She leans in again, this time a slower, deeper kiss that sends sparks of electric pleasure through both of them. He feels the press of her body, the slick heat of sweat, the violent pounding of his heart. Her alien physiology gives her skin a subtle glow, and he's entranced by it, by her. They lose themselves for a moment in that mutual hunger, forgetting the battered outpost, the looming war, everything but each other. When they finally part, she rests her forehead against his, panting. Her eyes flicker with a mix of triumph and vulnerability. "I've been fighting this," she confesses, voice raw. He exhales a shaky laugh. "So have I." She shifts off him, lying beside him on the training mat. They stare at the ceiling, letting the adrenaline subside. After a while, he turns his head, gaze sweeping over her. "We don't have to label it," he says quietly. "But I don't want to ignore it anymore." She presses her lips together, nodding. "Agreed." Silence drapes over them, comfortable now. She catches his hand, threading their fingers. That small gesture feels far more intimate than the bruising kiss. He squeezes back, exhaling a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. For the first time in a long while, something other than vengeance fills the hollow space inside him. Their newfound closeness doesn't derail the mission. If anything, it intensifies their commitment. They spend days strategizing with Oren's rebels, using the stolen intel to strike at small nodes of Tyal's operation. Each success dismantles supply lines, cripples a smuggling route, or exposes corrupt officials. The conflict escalates, but momentum is on their side. Over time, they've grown accustomed to operating as a well-matched team. Their banter is tinged with flirtation, but it never undermines the danger. In combat, they watch each other's backs with a seamless efficiency that sparks admiration from the rebels. Yet behind closed doors, the tension between them crackles into something deeper, a bond forged in blood, risk, and desire. On a night when the outpost is quiet and the rebels celebrate a victory, Jace and Leora slip away from the noise. They find themselves in a cramped observation deck, a small window overlooking the star-strewn void. The battered station hums beneath them, a faint vibration in the metal floor. She leans against him, and he wraps an arm around her waist, drawing her close. The reflection of swirling galaxies illuminates her features in soft blues and whites. "This fight is only going to get bigger," she murmurs, eyes distant. He rests his chin on her shoulder. "We'll face it together. You said your own government might be pulling strings. Are you prepared to confront them?" She exhales shakily. "They won't just roll over. They'll hunt me for treason, brand me a traitor. Probably put a bounty on my head." He tightens his hold. "Then we keep moving, keep striking. Build alliances that can stand up to them." She turns her head, her breath brushing his cheek. "And after the war? After the network is gone?" He searches her eyes, seeing fear of an unknown future. He doesn't have a perfect answer, but he cups her face gently, pressing a light kiss to her forehead. We'll figure it out. As long as you're there, I'll stand with you. She closes her eyes, leaning into the kiss. The tension in her body eases, replaced by an unspoken gratitude. A quiet moment passes, the swirl of stars reflected in the observation window. Then she turns and captures his lips in a slow, meaningful kiss. No desperation this time, just a raw, unspoken promise of something greater than the violence that brought them together. In the following weeks, the final showdown looms. The data has led them to the core of Tyal's old enterprise, a hidden fortress in orbit above a dead planet. Rumor says that a secret council, including members of Leora's species, meets there to oversee the distribution of advanced weaponry. If they can disrupt that council, the entire operation may collapse. But the defenses are rumored to be formidable. The rebel outpost rallies every resource it can spare. Orin's ranks have swelled slightly, bolstered by those outraged by the revelations. Leora and Jace stand at the head of a strike force, preparing for the largest battle yet. The plan is risky. Infiltration teams disable shields, while the main fleet engages any security ships. Leora's role is crucial. She can interface with the fortress's alien tech, hopefully long enough to bring down automated defenses. On the eve of departure, Jace finds Leora in a secluded corner of the outpost, meticulously checking her gear. She's reconfigured a specialized gauntlet that amplifies her synergy with technology. He steps behind her, resting a hand on her shoulder. She glances back, tension in her eyes. Are we ready? He asks quietly. She shuts the panel on the gauntlet, standing to face him. As ready as we'll ever be. This is bigger than anything we've tried. And if my own people are there, I might have to fight them. He wraps his arms around her, drawing her against his chest. I won't let them take you. She lets out a shaky breath, resting her forehead against his sternum. I'm not afraid of them. I'm afraid of losing everything we've built here. Afraid that you'll be taken from me like others have. He lifts her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. We survive together, or not at all. Her expression softens, tears threatening at the corners of her eyes, though she blinks them back. Damn you, Jace. You make me feel weak. He shakes his head. No. Strong. We make each other stronger. She nods, swallowing hard. Then she pulls him into a searing kiss, an unspoken vow. Their hearts pound in unison, arms tightening around each other as if they confuse the space between them. The taste of her lips, the heat of her body, is all the assurance he needs. When they part, breathless, she steps back, determination shining in her metallic gaze. Then let's finish this, she whispers. The assault on the orbital fortress begins under cover of a cosmic storm swirling through the sector. Lightning arcs across the emptiness, warping sensors and hampering visibility. Perfect conditions for infiltration, if also dangerous. A small fleet of rebel ships emerges from the storm, battered but resolute. Jace pilots one of them, with Leora co-piloting, scanning for the fortress's perimeter defenses. Sure enough, the fortress bristles with turrets and missile bays. The shield shimmer is barely visible in the flickering storm light. Orin's ships move to engage, drawing the fortress's attention. Jace and Leora take a sleek infiltration craft and slip under the main field of battle, hugging the planet's curvature. Incoming fire crackles across their bow, but they weave through it. The infiltration craft latches onto an airlock at the fortress's underside. Explosions ripple above as the rebel fleet hammers the fortress's defenses. Jace and Leora, along with a handful of elite fighters, breach the airlock and enter dark corridors lit only by emergency lights. The station rumbles with the impact of outside fire. They press on, encountering pockets of resistance. Leora's gauntlet crackles with arcs of energy as she overrides locks and disrupts security droids. Jace's rifle barks short, lethal bursts, dropping foes. Their synergy is perfect. Every time he's in danger, she's there to cover him, and vice versa. They eventually reach the main control center. A towering door stands sealed, defended by an elite guard of Leora's own species, recognizable by their elongated ears and glowing temple lines. She hesitates, seeing them, a flicker of pain crossing her features. They wear advanced armor, each wielding a staff crackling with energy. Jace steps forward, weapon raised, but Leora stops him with a hand on his arm. Let me. She moves to the front, confronting her kin. The leader of the guard narrows his eyes. Leora! You've become a traitor to your blood. She lifts her chin, voice trembling with defiance. My blood? Or your lust for power? You sold our honor to monsters like Tyal. The guard sneers. We advanced our race. You cling to illusions of morality. He lunges with the staff. Leora whips up her gauntlet, meeting the blow with a pulse of energy that shatters the staff's tip. The corridor explodes into chaos. Jace leaps in, exchanging fire with the other guards, but their technology is formidable. Leora parries blow after blow, her movements graceful yet forceful. The arcs of energy from her gauntlet swirl around her, forging a temporary barrier. The guard leader snarls, launching a barrage of strikes, but she counters each one with desperate finesse. Jace provides covering fire for the rest of their team, who are pinned down by the remaining guards. One by one, the enemies fall. The leader, wounded and staggering, glares at Leora, blood trickling from his mouth. You doom us all, he hisses. She lunges, planting a final blow with her gauntlet that sends him crashing to the floor, armor sparking. His final breath rattles in the gloom. She stands over his body, shoulders heaving, eyes burning with grief and triumph. Jace places a tentative hand on her shoulder. She inhales sharply, but doesn't shrug him off. I had no choice, she murmurs, voice taut. He nods. Come on. We end this. They enter the control center, where the secret council is gathered around a massive hollow display of the sector. Alarm clacks and shriek. The council members turn, shock etched on their faces. One attempts to flee, but Jace fires a warning shot into the console, sparks flying. Stay right there, he growls. Leora steps forward, scanning the controls. We can broadcast the entire archive of Tyal's network from here, expose the corruption to every major power. They won't be able to deny it anymore. A council member, an elderly figure with elaborate ridges on his skull, scoffs. You'll trigger war on an unimaginable scale. She smirks bitterly. You did that the moment you sold out your honor for profit. With a swift motion, she slots the data core into the main terminal, initiating a system-wide broadcast. Across the fortress, lights flicker in protest. A hiss of venting steam suggests the station's power grid is overstressed. Outside, the rebel fleet intensifies its bombardment. Jace glances through the viewport, seeing the swirling cosmic storm lit by weapons fire. The fortress's shields collapse under the combined assault. Council members scatter, some diving for cover, others cowering. Jace holds them at bay, eyes hard. Leora's gauntlet glows brighter, intensifying as she syncs with the fortress systems. Just a few more seconds, she mutters, sweat beading on her brow. We'll broadcast it all. A sudden surge of energy crackles through the console, jolting her. She cries out, convulsing as the station's failing power grid sends a shock wave through her gauntlet. Jace leaps forward, wrenching the device free from her arm, ignoring the searing pain as sparks burn his hand. She collapses, gasping for air. Leora! He shouts, cradling her. Smoke rises from the gauntlet, which lies in twisted ruins on the floor. Her eyes flutter open, chest heaving. In the flickering screens above, Jace sees the data broadcast completing, streaming vital evidence across every channel. The infiltration is successful. He lifts his gaze to the cowering council. It's over, he snarls. They don't argue. They're done. The fortress shudders under the continuing barrage, hull breach alerts shrieking. Rebel ships are already latching on, dispatching squads to secure the station. Jace helps Leora to her feet, supporting her weight. She coughs, wincing. We did it. The truth is out. He nods, brushing a streak of blood from her temple. And now we get off this station before it tears itself apart. Minutes later, they evacuate to a rebel frigate. The fortress behind them crumbles in the cosmic storm, consumed by the chain reaction of sabotage, bombardment, an internal meltdown. The council is taken into custody by Orin's forces. Across the sector, transmissions confirm that worlds are reacting to the revelations, forming alliances to root out corruption. A new conflict brews, but at least it's out in the open, no longer hidden behind layers of deceit. In the frigate's medbay, Jace and Leora sit on adjacent cots, battered but alive. Orin steps in, a rare smile ghosting across his scarred features. You two did it. We're picking up messages from systems all over. People want to negotiate peace, unify against these arms cartels. Jace exhales, feeling relief wash over him. Leora nods, though her expression is subdued. Orin claps them both on the shoulder, then leaves them alone. They share a look, exhaustion writ on every line of their faces. She shifts closer, taking his hand in hers. We're not done, she whispers, voice hoarse. But at least now the fight is fair. He squeezes her fingers gently. Where will you go? She smiles faintly, eyes shining with unshed tears. I go where you go for now. We have a galaxy to rebuild. He tugs her into a careful embrace, mindful of their injuries. She lays her head against his chest, listening to the steady thrum of his heartbeat. The moment feels surreal. After all the violence, betrayal, and tension, they've reached a turning point that might just lead to something better. He presses a soft kiss to her hairline. Leora, I never thought I'd find more than vengeance. But with you, there's something else. Her arms tighten around him. I know. A tear slips free, vanishing into the fabric of his shirt. I thought I knew everything about pleasure, about power. But you showed me something different, something stronger. They hold each other in the quiet hum of the med bay, the cosmic storm now behind them. Outside, the rebel fleet begins the arduous task of securing the fortress remains. Inside, a sense of finality and hope mingles. They're both raw, scarred, and uncertain of what the next chapter will bring. Yet they have each other, and a newly united force that might just reshape the galaxy for the better. When the frigate jumps into faster than light, carrying them away from the wreckage of old empires, they remain locked in each other's arms. The journey will be long, and more battles lie ahead, but in this moment, together, they've found a quiet, potent victory that neither could have imagined. And for the first time in a long time, the future feels like theirs to shape, rather than just survive.